All right, good afternoon, everybody. It is beautiful hump day, USA. Everybody, welcome to Wednesday at 1 p.m. live webinar. You are with your host, Shawn O'Rourke. I'm representing from Meravigli, Milano, downtown, baby. We are doing some great things today. As you come into the webinar, please say hello. All right. Remember to always follow us on Facebook and Instagram for any updates and any other news related to classes, related to events, anything of that matter, okay? Today, guys, you are with moi, me, this guy for the next hour. So come on in, get comfortable, and let's get started. So today, before we really begin, okay, I have one very wonderful question for you. Okay, the question is today we have to be descriptive. Okay, so today whenever we're going to focus in on kind of building vocabulary and being a little bit more descriptive in our speech. Okay, oftentimes we can use this descriptive language to help us to describe and give a better image in our minds of what it is we want to explain. Okay. Today we're going to look specifically at some writing, and we're also going to look at using metaphors and similes. Okay. So you guys, all you poets out there, let's get started. So when I talk about being descriptive, we always want to make some kind of comparison or even create an image to help us build a context, a mental library. So whenever I talk about similes or metaphors, okay, we have to think about the structure of those things. First, I want to give you guys some examples because we can use physical descriptions to help us to understand better the content. What I mean, if I think about, for example, look at my skin, okay? Look at my skin, guys. I haven't been to the beach all year, okay? So what does my skin look like? Okay? So sometimes we can say pale as a bucket. And we can also say maybe white as a ghost. So these are some different ways that we can help to be a little bit more descriptive and a little bit imaginative with our speech. Okay, so sometimes if you don't look so good, you are pale as a bucket or you are as white as a ghost, which helps us to understand a little bit more what it is you're trying to say. Okay, our focus today is going to be focusing mostly on the seasons. Okay, and a lot of ways we have a lot of different poetry to describe seasons. Okay, we have the beautiful four seasons. What's nice about living up in the north of Italy, or even, for example, my hometown in Buffalo, the beauty is we really can have all four very full seasons. Okay. And when we talk about seasons, we have winter, spring, summer, and fall. But in poetry, we can also personify these different things, right? So oftentimes we talk about the winter of our lives, okay, the summer of our lives. Okay, and these are different ways that we help ourselves to kind of describe in a poetic way where we stand in life, okay? My father often likes to make a joke about, well, Shawn, I'm in the winter of my life. And it kind of at the end of his life, but really he's making a joke about being an old guy and thinking about all of the different seasons he's been through in his life. So seasons can be different steps in our life. Seasons can be the different procedures and the different experiences that we've had in our life, okay? We also can talk about, if we're talking specifically about seasons, We can talk about mountains that we climb, on valleys that we go through, okay? So, for example, this challenge is deeper than a valley and than any valley I've ever gone into, okay? So we help to create imagery through language to help the reader or the listener interpret what we want to say or mean, okay? So I give you guys the challenge. Can you think of any other maybe figurative speech or maybe any type of metaphors that you can think of right now? Okay, so I'll put it up on the list. So tell me some of your metaphors. If you got any metaphor. So remember, if we use metaphors, we're going to have to use as, okay? If we use similes, we'll use like. And we'll get to it a little bit more. But let's get started, okay? So moving on over. Excellent. So looking here today, guys, what we're going to be talking about is we're going to be talking about descriptive language, similes and metaphors, and using different senses. So we've had classes already before talking about sense of touch, smell, taste, hear, and sight. Okay? And we use these senses to be much more informative and descriptive in our speaking. Okay? So a simple question for all of you guys out there. We can ask, what is your favorite season and why? Okay, so you guys on the chat right now, if you'd like, you can write a short description of your favorite season and we can read them together in a group. Okay, so I will give you guys a little example. Okay, my favorite season is fall. Okay? I love the fall because of the changing colors in the leaves and the breeze that blows around. Okay? The scent of fall is always full of spices and flavors. Okay, when I think of fall, I think of fall. I think of a big jack-o'-lantern, okay, burning in the night. Night. Okay. Fall, I think of a jack-o'-lantern burning night. Okay, so now we can build some more descriptive language. We're talking about fall. We're talking about the leaves changing. So, if the leaves are changing colors, we could say that leaves are like people that change over time. Okay, there's you guys. Leaves are like people that change over time, or we can talk. So the pumpkin. So the pumpkin is like a torch, or it could be a guiding light. Okay. So when you guys have any ideas, please share with me. Okay. So first, we'll look at a detailed description. The first sure sign of winter in the north is a dusting of frost that envelops everything in sight, making the world seem as delicate as a crystal. Soon after, a deep chill settles in, a cold you can feel right down to your bones. It is a cold that numbs fingers and makes you want to sit near a roaring fire. To combat the cold, People shuffle around in gigantic parkas and snowsuits that make the wearer look like a clumsy, abominable snowman. The next thing to arrive is the snow. It starts out as tiny particles floating on the icy breeze. The flakes cling to your eyelashes, causing them to stick together. Eventually, the snow becomes a thick white blanket covering the land. The falling snow to muffle faraway noises, making you feel like you are alone in the world. At the same time, it magnifies sounds from nearby so that if you listen closely, you can hear the snowflakes touching ground or the smallest animals scurrying under the snowdrifts. Okay, so looking at this paragraph, we have some different similes and metaphors. Okay, so let's take a look into this. Okay, let's see if we can see the paragraph a little bit bigger. And now what we see here is we see some different similes and metaphors. First metaphor, we have the world seem as delicate as a crystal. Okay, so see how we're comparing the world to a crystal. Mhm. Okay, and now, for example, we have to combat the cold, people shuffle around in big parkas. So now we're saying that these parkas and snowsuits make a person look like, so similar to a clumsy, abominable snowman. Okay, the flakes cling. Whenever we talk about clinging, it's like holding on to something very tightly. So it's a cling. Okay, when we cling, we hold on tightly to something. We also have, for example, it starts out as tiny particles and the flakes cling to your eyelashes. Even so, if we look here, we even have personification, imagery. So the snow becomes a thick white blanket. Okay, so the snow is like a thick white blanket, which covers the area. Okay, and to muffle is like this. Whenever muffling is, we can't hear it very well. Okay, so that's to muffle something. Okay. When we talk about, for example, scurry is like a quick run. Okay, so when we scurry around, we kind of are running in a frantic way. Okay. Okay, so here we have our metaphor. So a metaphor is always creating some kind of imagery. Okay, where these are always going to be more comparatives. Okay. And here we have using sight, okay, down to your bones. So feel, see, numbs the fingers, okay, touch, cling to your eyelashes, okay. Also seems to muffle, so hearing. All right. So here we're going to talk a little bit further about our similes. Okay, looking at our similes, we want to always use either like or as. Okay, so an example is it's as hot as a furnace outside. The furnace is hot, furnaces are hot. Okay, the weather is hot and furnaces are hot. Or we can use the sunlight felt like a warm blanket on her shoulders. Okay, so sunlight is warm and blankets are warm. So if we use some different adjectives like heat, cold, we could talk about, for example, you are as cold as ice. Okay, if you guys can think that use similes, there are many songs actually that use similes, and we also use senses as well. For example, we have smells like Teen Spirit. Okay, Cold as ice. Okay. Can we think of any others? Let's see. That smells like a spirit. Oh, a good old CCR classic. Heard it through the grapevine. Okay. I got that. You got sensual feeling. Or is it sexual healing? I don't know. We'll go with sensual feeling. Okay. Um, I believe in miracles. Where you from? You sexy thing. You sexy thing. All right. So now let's think of some similes for the next. So if we say that the water is cold, what can we say that the water is like? Okay. So the water is like. So if the water is cold, the water is like. Huh. What? We can say that the water is like a frozen popsicle. Okay. Clear summer nights are bright. Okay. So what could we say if the nights are bright? Okay. The night is glowing like a laser. Okay. In the summer, it gets very dry. Okay. So we can also say, for example, it's so hot and dry. It's as dry as a bone. Okay. We can say that something is dry as a bone. The spring air smells nice. Oh, okay. The spring air is like bloom flowers in the wind. Look at that. Okay. It's quiet when it snows. Okay. The snow makes everything as quiet as an evening stroll in the park. I don't know about you guys, but when I walk in the park in the evening, especially now, it is pretty dang quiet. Okay. And rain, it's quite quiet when it snows, and the rain sounds loud. Okay. The rain is, we can say, for example, the rain is banging on the house like sheets of metal. Okay? So when we use imagery, we can help ourselves to understand exactly what the sound is like, which is really cool. Okay. So the water is cold as ice. The clear summer nights are as bright as day. Okay. In the summer, it's as dry as the desert. The spring air smells like flowers. It's quiet when it snows. It's as quiet as an abandoned library when it snows. Ooh. Okay. And the rain sounds like a herd of cows running on the roof. Okay. So whenever we're talking about descriptive language or figurative speech, we can use different types of images to help us describe exactly the situation. Okay. For example, if your phone is broken, okay, you can say that your phone is shattered into pieces like a million broken mirrors. Okay. So once we want to always build images off of each other. Okay. For example, can anyone describe this sound? Bottle crackles like a roasting fire. Okay. And we can even say, for example, if we talk about natural events, naturally occurring events, maybe, for example, a lightning storm, okay, when it's really thundering and lightning, okay, the thunder hammers the sky. Okay, so we can personify that the thunder is actually hammering. That's a metaphor. Okay, or we could say that the lightning strikes the ground. Okay, like the lightning strikes the ground like. The lightning strikes the ground like. Oh, like a collapsing building. Okay, so and so you understand sound and feeling, okay, all together. So now we're going to take away like and as. We're going to talk specifically about metaphors, okay? So what do we have over here? Okay, we see that the snow is a white blanket, summer grass is a soft green carpet. So once again, we're changing the object and transforming it into another object. Okay, so now if we talk about these different examples, how can we transform them into metaphors? So a very hot sun, a starry night sky, a pleasant breeze, a cold wind, a very still or calm lake, and a beautiful sunset. Okay, so I'll give you guys a couple minutes to kind of brainstorm some ideas. And remember, we can't use like or as. Okay. So let's see if I can come up with some examples. Very hot sun. Okay, so looking here, guys, these are some different things that I came up with. Now, if you guys can think of anything, please share with me. So I thought the sun is a burning fire. Okay, so hot sun, it's a fire. A starry night sky, the sky is a blanket with a bunch of holes in it. Okay, that came from Incubus, by the way, if anyone understands that quote. The breeze is a hug from someone you love. Okay, a cold wind is like a slap in the face. Some of those windy days. Okay, the lake is a mirror I can see my reflection. So a still lake becomes a mirror. And the sunset is something that steals my attention and makes me pause for a moment, okay? So you give it some figurative capabilities. The sunset can be personified, okay? So let's see what they came up with. The sun was a flamethrower spit in heat. The stars were tiny holes in a black canopy sky. The breeze was a cool touch. The icy wind was a dagger through our clothes. Very good. Okay, so something ripping through. A very still lake is a mirror reflecting the world. The sky was a watercolor painting. Very good. So see how we can give itself some other elements to describe itself. Okay. So now we're going to move on talking more about our sensations. Okay. So for example, even looking at this picture is very, very beautiful. We can also use colors as a way to emphasize the emotion. Okay. So what we see here is we see this nice tree. We see this wheat, nice clouds, and we see as well. Okay, so it makes me think of what time of day is it now. In the early morning, we call it dawn. Okay, so we call the very early morning dawn, almost around when the sun rises, maybe a little bit before, maybe a little bit after. Okay, and before the sun goes down, okay, we call it dusk. And it's the hours just around the time whenever the sun is going away, there's the sunset. Okay. So I look at this picture and I see a beautiful dusk evening. Okay. So we're in the moment of dusk, and the light does something very, very kind of mystical in a way. And so you see what happens is the wheat becomes golden, right? And the colors become a little bit more saturated. And you can feel these colors a little bit more. So if we talk about it, it's almost like you can, in this picture, what can you smell? In this picture, what can you hear? In this picture, what can you imagine to taste? What can you imagine to see? Okay. So just looking here, we can build a whole discussion about just what exactly are our senses doing. Okay. I hear the crickets chirping. Okay. You hear that the crickets chirping in the field. Okay. And for example, do you think that it's windy or no? What do you guys think? Do you think it's windy or no? Okay, so for example, I see this image as something that the hour at dusk is a still moment, okay, that freezes time. Mhm. So now go ahead, and if you guys can think of any other image that brainstorm together, okay. And we see here that sight is our most powerful sense. It's our primal sense, but really we have touch, we have feeling. Okay, so we want to introduce those into our language. And here we have, for example, I want you guys to think about a picture or a season that you guys have in mind. What do you hear? What do you smell? Can you feel? Are there any other tastes that remind you of this season? Okay. For example, here in this image, I think about dinner time. Maybe I think about, maybe I hear a bell ringing for my mom to call me home. Okay, maybe I'm out playing with my friends. Okay, so it seems like one of those ideal summer nights where the weather is beautiful and time just escapes. It doesn't exist. Okay, and there's a lot of moments like that where time just eludes itself from us. Okay, so take a moment right now, guys, and think about what would be your season, and if you can, describe it. Okay, so I'll take a moment. See. So I thought automatically a summer night. Okay, simplicity of a summer night. No need for jackets or anything to cover yourself. Just a pair of shorts for down at the river's edge. You can feel the water flowing between your toes. You can smell the campfire burning in the night. The summer air breathes light into your body. Okay. So this air, this feeling, these things are giving us other sensations, causing us to be more provoked or more inspired. Mhm. Okay, so now, for example, let's take a moment and first let's look at the blind leading the blind. Okay, so this phrase is pretty interesting because whenever we say the blind leading the blind, what we mean to say is someone who is not skilled leads other people who are not skilled. Okay, so it's kind of a joke on people. So whenever, for example, somebody, you often joke with friends about this, like, oh, great, we have the blind leading the blind. And we use this in a lot of times whenever we're kind of pulling each other's legs. So today, for example, if you don't know much about something and you want to convince everybody that you know it, it's like, oh, the blind leading the blind. So at this point, let's take a moment to describe your city in a specific season. The sounds, it sounds pretty simple, but the catch is that the person you are describing is blind. Okay, so this person can't see. So here what you have to do is you have to think a little bit deeper. Now, this automatically makes me think of Emily whenever she's carrying the blind man through Paris to his spot where he usually plays the record player. I don't know if you guys remember that moment, but she describes everything in such a moment where there's almost a euphoric moment where he is just completely oversaturated. He is fulfilled with all this happiness. And so that's what you guys have to do right now. You have to think about your city, and you have to think about, because oftentimes there are things where we don't want to admit, but for example, sometimes cities can stink pretty bad. They can stink like garbage. Okay. So I want you guys to think and take a moment now to try to describe your city. All right. So take a moment, think about what are the specific details of your city. So I'm going to take a moment and write about Buffalo. Okay. Okay. So I took a moment and I'll read it out to you guys talking about my city. Okay. So Buffalo, it's the place of chicken wings and pizza. I can smell now those spicy wings from a mile away. Anyone who goes to Buffalo must take a bite out of the spicy suicide wings at Duff's. But it's not only draws people to Buffalo. The people are as friendly as your neighbor, and everyone is open to helping one another. On any given summer day, you will always hear the rumbling of a concert in the far distance or people laughing and talking really loud. Buffalonians are famous for always talking super loud and not really ever getting to the point. But the love of the city is felt in every angle. From the monuments to the museums, you can feel a culture of a small city with a big heart. Okay, so looking here, we see that it took some time to highlight different personifications. Okay, I made the city have a heart. Okay, and the culture becomes something that you can feel. Okay, if we look further, okay, we can see that I talked a little bit about the rumbling concert. Okay, so rumble is like loud noises off in a distance. Okay, so buffalo, it's not only the food that draws people, but the people are as friendly. Okay, so they are as friendly as your neighbor. So comparing any person to your neighbor, which some of us don't have very good neighbors, to be honest with you, but whatever. And we can also see that I assimilate buffalo to the sense of a smell of good food. Okay, good food and good times, really. Beer and chicken wings. What else is better than that? Okay. So now we're gonna come to a point where we're gonna kind of conclude everything. We're gonna bring everything to a nice solid paragraph that you guys can take away. Okay. So what we have to do now, guys, is we're gonna take the next couple minutes to write a description of your favorite season again. Okay. We're gonna write a full description paragraph using all of your new skills, and we need to make sure that we include at least 2 similes, at least 1 metaphor, a description using at least 2 senses besides sight. Okay, so we have to have hear or taste. All right, so let's all take a moment now. We'll take a couple minutes and then we'll share it together. And I'll write mine down in the comments, okay? All right, guys, so let's take a look at some things that I wrote so that you guys can use it as inspiration, okay? The first day of spring is a precursor to the days to come, okay? So I use the day of spring to be like a compass, a precursor. It is a compass that marks the beginning of a new year. With flowers and plants that blossom, we too blossom like them, saying that people grow like plants, okay? In this time, we reflect about the seasons that have passed. This reflection is like an intersection, once again, making a simile between reflection and intersection that gives us direction on where to move to. When we see the green light of spring, we accelerate with no bearing. Okay, so saying that spring and the green light, that moment of open, we run. We run as fast as we can because all we can feel is the hot heat of the summer, the friendships to be had and the summer nights to be lost inside of. Time is like a beating drum. Okay, so comparing time with a beating drum, our hearts move as fast as a Ferrari in anticipation of the next warm day. I can taste the first bite of ice cream with cookie dough that is as sweet as cherry pie. So that beautiful ice cream, that wonderful, delicious ice cream, and cherry pie, both are very sweet things. I can hear the fire crackling down by the river that burns like our discussions about life and love. Okay? So, those are some different ways that we can personify and use imagery in our writing to display to our listener or our reader and give them a little bit more context. Okay, whenever we're speaking or whenever we're writing, we want to build context. We want to help the reader or the listener follow a roadmap so that you guys can develop and build bigger and better conversation. Okay. If you guys have any questions, I leave the floor to you. Other than that, I want to take this time now to say thank you very much to all of you guys for always following us and always participating. Um, Today, we talked about some descriptive language, and I hope that you guys can find it useful and also continue to follow us in weeks to come. Okay, it's always great to hear from you guys. It's great that we can share in this means over these couple weeks. And just remember, you can always contact us at any time through Facebook or Instagram. You can see our videos. You can chat with us at any time. Okay. So thank you very much and have you all a great day.